Slasher movies were never more popular than in the 1980s, but one of the horror's most underrated hidden gems actually spawned a franchise. Though it began earlier, it wasn't until the release of films like Halloween that the blood-soaked subgenre finally began to pick up steam. A masked killer and high body count were all a movie needed to succeed. Because there were so many slasher films released in the 80s, plenty slipped through the cracks and have been forgotten. One such film is important because it was one of the first instances of a horror film being self-aware and making commentary about itself. What's more, this hidden gem actually started an underrated franchise too. The Slumber Party Massacre is better than its 48% Rotten Tomatoes score. Women and Murderer in the Slumber Party Massacre. While it's often lumped in with the dozens of forgettable slashers released in the 80s, the Slumber Party Massacre deserves more attention. Though it holds a measly 48% on Rotten Tomatoes, the film is actually much better. The concept sounds like a parody of slashers, and that's largely because the film is a dark spoof of sorts. The film pokes fun at slasher movie clichés, and has a lot to say about the role of women in horror in general. Amazingly, the film is able to contain so much social commentary without ever losing sight of its main objective of being a freaky flick. The killer is memorable, and the story does a lot with a little. It's easy to dismiss the Slumber Party Massacre because it almost does too good a job of looking like the sort of films it parodies. Nevertheless, it's well worth a watch both as a piece of social commentary, and as a legitimately underrated slasher gem. Several Slumber Party Massacre sequels followed the original. Slumber Party Massacre 2 Drill Guitar. The first film was successful enough to warrant a follow-up, and Slumber Party Massacre 2 arrived in 1987. Leaning heavily into the humorous aspects of the original, the first sequel intentionally takes the franchise in a new direction with a rock-'n'-roll-themed killer. It too got poor reviews, but has since become a cult classic among dedicated slasher fans. The first two films led to a threequel, but Slumber Party Massacre 3 is not as beloved. The film lacks the bite of the original or the goofy fun of the sequel, and it falls in an in-between space that is quite boring. The other two films overcame their low budgets, but the third looks and feels very cheap. There are also Slumber Party Massacre spin-off movies. The characters call for help when the killer shows up in Sorority House Massacre. Though only loosely connected, the Sorority House Massacre and Cheerleader Massacre series are actually spin-offs of the Slumber Party Massacre. Both copy the basic format of the original, with either a sorority house or a group of cheerleaders being tormented by a killer. All the movies lack the cleverness of the original, and sink further and further into B-movie territory. A Slumber Party Massacre reimagining arrived in 2021. Slumber Party Massacre Image gives first look at upcoming remake. Initially intended to be the fourth film in the original series, 2021 Slumber Party Massacre eventually became a reboot with sequel elements. Unlike a lot of other trashy cash-in films, the reboot had something new to say by attempting to resurrect the feminist themes that were largely excised from the original movie. Results were ultimately mixed, though the film does hold a 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes with 19 total reviews. It diversified the cast considerably, and kept the playful energy of the classic films without sacrificing an inch of its message. As far as you